Hey folks, we're back on the Zenith 5S29 from the mid-1930s, and I'm going to try my hand at the first veneer repair, and I'm going to start in this area right here. I'll probably do this one on camera and then just work these others off camera. I've got my sample veneer, or my donor veneer from that Silvertone radio. One thing I mentioned, look how thin this veneer is. So I'm going to have to build up the substrate or put two pieces of veneer together to get the desired height, and that's probably what I'll do. So I'll probably glue a couple of these together, and I think that will give me the height I need. So time will tell on that, but first I want to just work out my strategy here on my cut. So here's one piece of veneer here, another cut here, another cut here. And again, the eyes plays tricks on you. So I mentioned in the prior video, you really don't want to do blunt cuts. So I don't want to come from this direction back this way. I could probably hide that since you got this vertical line, because your eyes are going to pick up on this. So I probably could come here and come back over. But most likely what I'm considering doing is using this line here as my reference, and cut here, and probably cut this piece of veneer loose here and get it off, and then just put a new piece of veneer on all the way through this area. Then I'll trim out around the speaker grill area. But let me think on that just for a moment, and we'll get started here. Okay, one thing to note, you can see I've just got a brand new blade here in the X-Acto knife, and that's important because I want a real nice crisp edge here for the cut. So let me line this up, and again, just multiple scores here off, and what I want to do is go as close as I can to the existing edge of the veneer, and just clean it up just a bit. The angle doesn't have to be perfect. You can see how quick that took care of that with that sharp blade. So I think that's going to work there. And let me get this back in alignment here, then I'm going to go ahead and continue this diagonal cut all the way through to this vertical grill coming down here, then just remove this small section. And then we'll look at taking a couple pieces of veneer here and getting it placed on. Okay, we'll get this aligned here, and what I'm going to do again is just make sure I think I'm aligned here best I can be, and then I'm going to go ahead and cut up here. And again, I'm just using real light cuts here. I don't want to put too much pressure because I don't want to take a chance of cutting through or damaging the grill itself. And then I may have to apply some heat here just to get this section here to release. So let me see if I can get my knife underneath it here and pop this section off. Okay, with the straight edge out of the way, again, I'm going to just kind of cut through this veneer at this angle. And again, if I have the angles are not matched up properly, I'll go back and just clean them up just a little bit. And let me see if I can get up underneath here. There we go. That's what you're looking for. Again, I'm going to go ahead and just get this substrate cleaned up, and I'll do the same here. Then we'll double check the angle here for this first section, then we'll go back over here and clean this section up as well. Okay, I got back in here with my straight edge again, and just made certain that I had a good angle line to work with. And again, it doesn't have to be perfect because I can always use a fill stick here and get the gaps filled in, and that's what I'll do anyway, because you'll never be able to get a perfect match. Alright, let's look at this angle here now. I'll try to zoom in on this, but I'm going to cut just a little bit of this section right here off. Okay, let me get a piece of the veneer out right here. Another strip that's smaller than, let's just check the height of it here and see how well it's going to work. Again, I think I'm going to have to double up the veneer or use a paper backer to get the desired height. A single piece of veneer is not thick enough. Now again, don't worry about the grain lines. Again, I'm just laying it up here just to gauge the thickness. And again, best indicator, just rub your finger across it from one section to the other and get that to stay in there. Two might be just a touch high, but the advantage of being too high is I can always sand down after the glue dries. So that's what I'm going to do. Let me go ahead and get my donor piece here, and then we'll cut another piece that matches the grain just in case I get some bleed through, or do my best to match the same flow. And we'll go ahead and do a dry fit here. Once we get the dry fit where we want it, of course, we'll glue it up, clamp it, and we'll be done. Okay, I'll measure up here again. Let's see, I want to be a little long, so a little over 1 3/4 inches here. And the width, as you can see, there's a little over a 1/2 inch just to be on the safe side. Okay, I've got the veneer pieces cut here. Let me get this out of the way. This will be my first piece that I'll be laying down, and then I've got a second piece here laid out. And it should fit down in there once I get everything done, just with a small amount of overlap. And that's what I'm looking for, really, is just so these edges right here overlap just a bit. That will help hide some of the flaws in the cut lines. So tell you what I'm going to do. Since the first piece is going to be attached to the substrate, I'm not going to use the hide glue because I want something just to set up a little bit quicker. So I'll probably just use some epoxy real quick and get this first piece down and positioned. And then we'll decide on the second piece. I'll probably use hide glue on it because I want to be able to remove it if I need to in the future, just with some water or heat. And the hide glue too will allow me to position the piece, where I need it. Then we'll have to let it dry for a bit, and then I can come back and do the trimming, cutting, and then I'll grab the fill sticks if needed, which we will, and try to blend the areas in and take a look at the repair. Okay, I got a little bit of epoxy mixed up here. I'm going to put some on a acid brush and just place it directly on the cabinet itself. I don't want to get over aggressive with it because I don't want it to bleed out, and it won't take much at all. So that's probably good there. And again, this is our first piece that will go on. Alright, let's let that sit there for about 15 minutes or so. Then we'll get the second piece put on. I'll try to zoom in on this where you can see it better, but the veneer is just a little thinner on this side than this side, so what I'll try to do is lean heavier when I overlap the piece and push it more this direction, and then again this is very, very close to being flush here and here, but definitely raised in this area. So again, I'll push closer this direction, and then again we'll use the wax fill sticks and try to fill in some of the gaps, and then again once the toner lacquers are placed on the cabinet, it should be fairly transparent, and I can actually create some additional blend lines here as well if needed, just to tie in these two pieces of veneer. Okay, here's kind of a dry fit, and you can see here's what I'm looking for. Again, I'm just filling right now the top surface, so this upper surface is just a little bit higher, and again that's what I want to fill, because I'll be able to sand this down and make it flush. And if I'm lucky, we may be able to actually use some of the sawdust here from the veneer. If I can get some wet glue down in some of the cracks and just fill in some of the cut lines with some of the veneer material itself, which will save on the patch up with the wax fill sticks. I've got a small brush out. Let me go ahead and apply. I think the epoxy set up here long enough that it's pretty steady. Let me get some of the glue here on the back side, some of the hide glue, and place this down, and get a couple small clamps placed on here. Okay, you can see I've got everything clamped up here now, and I've got my wax paper on. We'll see how it turns out. Again, it's not an ideal clamping location, so hopefully we'll get some decent results. I can see I do have a gap here on this side, so I will have to use a little bit of the veneer, create some sawdust, fill those areas in. So we'll give that a try first and see how successful we are, and if we can't get a match there, again I'll pull out the wax sticks, and we'll get those gaps taken care of. Then any other flaws again will be covered up with the toner lacquers, or at least that's my hopes. While we're letting this dry, I'll go ahead and get this area, this substrate, cleaned up here. This is where I had to make the substrate repair, where it had broken loose here and was bowed up, so I got it rather flat. I'll go ahead and continue to chisel away here at some of the loose glue, and try to do some sanding here and flatten up this area, and get it ready for some veneer as well. Okay, I've got this area cleaned out right now, fairly good. Maybe just a little more cleanup here on the substrate. But I was going to go ahead and cut this all the way down, but then this veneer is in such good shape. I'm going to let it be, even though I've got this small area that I'm not crazy about, because again the eye may be drawn to that. But let me show you how I'm going to make this cut. I've never shown this technique on video before, but I think you'll find it helpful.